New reports indicate that Iraqis are drifting their cars. Apparently, there are young people living in places like Mosul who want to make a point about how their war-torn country isn't all about war. In fact, there is a group of individuals that love drifting their fancy souped-up cars, and they get together and teach kids how to drive cars. They raise money for kids. The group is fun. So we do have a video of this, but before we get to it, just a little bit of history regarding this particular area. So Mosul was seized by ISIS in 2014, but the Iraqi government has been trying to reclaim the city since late last fall with an effort that's backed in part by the US government. So there are people who still carry out their daily activities, and one of them is racing their cars or drifting or doing all those crazy things that you see in Fast and Furious movies. Now, one person who is part of this organization, he's a drifting event organizer, says, "We're trying to take this talent at least and grab attention and tell people that there's a lot happening in our country, more than just shooting and wars." Now, that was a statement that was given to BuzzFeed. And then promptly after that, ISIS started droning the area that they were drifting their cars in, which sucks. But I like the fact that they're trying to bring some positivity to the area. And also, they have a few YouTube videos up that are really well produced. So here's a little bit of one of them.
كوبوينو إيمي جنز بس على سبورتا مان چون من دال نازح كمان دلما خوش كردن رن ماي مان دانه ب سيس بوي سرعة نرون بوي الرجاء هر يوم كسنيك السعي دخري يهمو خلقه أجان لخوان بيركات يدرون خوان بس نو شكرا.
All right, so Riot Gear is the name of the group. And by the way, music from that part of the world is better than music from anywhere else.
Yeah,
you're so pro Mixolydian scale.
We're all just simultaneously nodding our head. Is that
yeah,
song?
like,
Come on.
Yeah.
And you didn't even notice it, Brett, and you were just screwing.
I was
with that.
Yeah. I was like, there's a chance that she might just play a clip from Tokyo Drift. Like at that point, I was waiting for Vin Diesel to just be like,
save the day
or something.
Yeah. So, first of all, the link to the whole video will be in the description box when we put up this video. Second of all, I am so uncool. I was like, I know drifting is something that people do with their cars, and I know that it's cool, but I don't know what it is.
It's like when they like slide.
Don't try it. That's the only thing. Like, I wouldn't ask you to try. Like, especially.
He can't even park his car correctly. Like, can you imagine him drifting?
Yeah. The over/under on cars I would hit while drifting is like 7.5.
No, all of them.
Now, onto the substance of this video. God, it's totally mission accomplished because it made me feel so much better about Iraq. Like that there are folks there that are still living their lives, and although like I'm always amazed, like if you have enough money for those cars, those are pretty nice cars. Like why haven't you gotten the hell out of Dodge or Mosul? Like man, I think I would try to get out of Mosul as soon as I could if I had that kind of money, but I'm glad they stayed, and those are the folks that are going to rebuild the city, hopefully once we get rid of the scourge of ISIS. And it's weird to think of the people that modern, and I get it, because actually Iraq used to be very secular and was far more along the path of modernity before we invaded Iraq, and then we had the fundamentalism, and all the wars, and then ISIS, etc. But it's good to see it with your own eyes. But it feels weird here in America to see guys like that who are so modern in the midst of ISIS-occupied territory.
Yep. It feels so weird because all we are shown is the despair and the devastation, and that just plays into the hate-filled ideology that these people are just trying to kill each other non-stop, and then that leads to the misconception that it's a religion that's causing all this, and there's not actually people there that are trying to live their everyday lives. And I know you're saying that these people that have the money there, and they maybe should try to move out of that area, but like you got to think about if your hometown was going through this amount of destruction, you'd try to do everything you can. I know if your life's in jeopardy, you want to get out and you want to be safe, but this is their life, this is their area, and they want to try and promote that all this hate and all this evil is the only way to really try and drive it out is by showcasing that it's not an overall religion that's causing this, and there's real people that are affected. Like, for instance, you just take each case by case as an example. There's a reason why Donald Trump does not comment on the Quebec shooting, because it wasn't committed by a Muslim, and because that ideology now passes over that everyone assumes that as soon as you see mass shooting, it's because a Muslim has taken to enacted this way. So the more you try to promote messages like this and try to promote that there's real people out there that are trying to just go about their everyday life, I'm not saying you're going to get through to these naive individuals that just assume that it's only Muslims that cause the terror, but every little bit can play a part to try and change a perception.
Just real quick, the only depictions that we really see of Muslims in the media is of, people who are fundamentalists or people who might be deemed violent, right? Like, or even if they're not deemed violent, Muslims that Americans can't even relate to in any way. So it leads to this us versus them mentality that I think a lot of Americans have. Like, they're so different from us.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of them are just like us. They're just like us. Just like celebrities.
We featured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote an awesome, great article in the Hollywood Reporter about La La Land.
Yes.
It was amazing. Anyways, but there's one person who was looking around at these people, with their Hummers, and then we're like, awesome, but where was that Hummer when we were fighting ISIS? You just parked that in a garage. You're waiting until the war's over, and then you're gonna come out and drive it all fancy. There was a big ass Hummers. I'm sure someone's like, why weren't you, a cool car, but where were you?
Yeah, so now I'm sure his answer is, I wasn't in the army. But to Brett's point, when ISIS attacked, they took Mosul fairly easily because the Iraqi army so didn't care that not only did they abandon their posts and abandon all the weapons behind, which actually handed ISIS a ton of weaponry, but they literally stripped naked. They might have kept their underwear on. They threw off their Iraqi uniforms because they didn't want to get targeted by ISIS. If they saw them in their military uniforms, they might have gotten killed. So they left their uniforms behind and ran. But the real reason for that is not because the guys in the Hummers are hiding. Okay.
Yeah, that was a joke, to be fair.
To be fair. It's because we split up Iraq all wrong. In fact, we put them together all wrong. And so when you had Shias in Sunni territory like Mosul, they're like, what am I going to die here for? I'm just going to run back to Shia territory, which is my home. And that's why we got the mess that we did. And by the way, to Francis' point about Muslims, one guy in there was talking about the Eid, which is one of the Muslim holidays. So you might look at those and think, oh, they must not be Muslim because they look modern. Right?
Yeah.
No, they're Muslim and they're about to celebrate a Muslim holiday, but right before they want to drift their Hummers. Hummer sounds funny to me every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
It is.
Normally, more money, more problems, but in this case, more money, Mosul.
Animals are innocent.
TRTnetwork.com/join.